Hello, Bournemouth fans. Hope you're doing all right this Thursday. You might have seen the news that AFC Bournemouth will be able to have fans in the ground from December the 12th. And this is because Bournemouth and Poole and Christchurch will be placed into Tier 2 of the new coronavirus restriction tiers when the lockdown ends on December the 2nd. The area was previously in Tier 1 before the latest national lockdown came into force on November the 5th. So each area has now been regraded into one of 3 tiers. And Tier 2 will mean that there are certain things that will be allowed, such as meeting friends and family, no mixing of households indoors, apart from support bubbles, but a maximum of 6 outdoors. Bars, pubs and restaurants, basically bars and pubs, have got to close unless operating as restaurants. Retail is open. Work and businesses, everyone who can work from home should still do so. Schools, universities, etc., they will all be open. Indoor leisure will be open. Accommodation open, personal care open, weddings and funerals, there are certain rules on that. And in terms of leisure specifically, the outdoor activities are permitted but can't take place indoors if there's any interaction between people from different households. But for us, sport, that is where it all comes into place, and live performances and business meetings limited to 50% capacity or 2,000 people outdoors, whichever is lower. And that means our next home game after that will be against Huddersfield, and that is at home Saturday, the 12th of December, and we'll be able to have 2,000 people in Dean Court. I'm joined here today by podcast regular, of course, Tom Jordan. Tom, how are you?
Yeah, all good, mate. Not too bad, thank you.
Great to see that we'll be able to get into Dean Court again, albeit 2,000 people. I probably won't be one of them, being a non-STH, but you are. You'll still have to go through some kind of ballot, but how exciting is it to the thought of being back?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I think until it starts to happen, we're not going to know what sort of effect it's going to have on that match day experience. Do you know what I mean? Need to get like an AFC Bournemouth face mask or something just to... for it to feel right. But yeah, it will be interesting. Obviously, I'll be shouting out to the club saying I'm mates with Jason now, so surely that's priority. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I think I've got to be priority for that. Surely,
you would think so. And it's great to see that we will be, drip fed back in. And on this video, there is going to be a tier list. So if you're a fan of a championship club, we're not trying to make too much light of the situation, because obviously it's a horrible situation we're in. And most tier lists are associated with some kind of sarcasm or being overly harsh. But this is just to give fans a heads up on which grounds have got which tiers, and especially with Bournemouth's fixtures coming up, it may be something that will do us a favour. But you look at it, Tom, and we need football to go on, etc. But there isn't much integrity in the fact that we can have 2,000 fans in the stadium, yet travel to Stoke City and they're allowed none. It kind of makes a mockery of it a little bit, doesn't it?
It is really difficult. I mean, I suppose it's unprecedented times in it, so you do what you can. But yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, we'll never know. But it's like after lockdown before, when we weren't allowed fans in and we got relegated, we will never know if we maybe would have stayed up with that. Who knows? So yeah, it is difficult. I kind of felt like at the start that whatever happened, they would kind of make the rest of the season behind closed doors and just start afresh next season because of that integrity side of it. But this is how they're going. And like I say, there's always going to be people that aren't happy. And there's always going to be things that we think, but it's unprecedented times. Like I say, what can you do? So yeah, fortunately, you'd like to think at the moment, depending on cases and stuff like that, when it gets reviewed, that we're going to be beneficial. We're going to benefit to a degree. There's not going to be many teams that can have more fans than us, for example. With us having quite a small stadium as well, should be able to ramp up the atmosphere more than, 2,000 fans in Bournemouth Stadium is a lot different to 2,000 fans in, say, Huddersfield Stadium, which is a lot bigger. So that'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see how they work it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it anyway, and hopefully getting back in the stadium. It'll be really surreal. I think the last one was Chelsea that I went to. It just seems so long ago. But yeah, it's weird, but I think it's one of them. We'll just see what happens.
I think your point about we having a stadium that's so small, it will actually benefit us, and it's relatively enclosed as well. And you go to some bigger stadiums, especially like Sheffield Wednesday, and there are other grounds that are a bit more open and exposed to the elements, and you think, how on earth would they be able to create an atmosphere? But that's one thing that we don't even know whether we can do. whether we can sing, whether we can do certain things. So I'm sure that the club will be revealing that. But in terms of Bournemouth, we've got some matches coming up, and of course 24 teams in the Championship, and everyone's in a different tier, so why not make a tier list? And this is not really to entertain, this is to educate, really, to show you exactly who's in what. So we've got our Championship tier list here, and obviously we'll start by placing Bournemouth in tier 2. So tier 1 is 4,000 fans as a maximum. Tier 2 is 2,000. Tier 3 is no fans at all. And so we'll start, and we'll just go in alphabetical order here. And Barnsley, they are in tier 3. We're playing them on Friday, the 4th of December. So that's live on Sky. So only just over a week away. And it's a match that, have they got fans, it's one of those kind of grounds that you wouldn't really like to go to, as Middlesbrough proved earlier this season, Tom.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've been to Barnsley before, and we just got a really, really late goal, stoppage time. Steve Cook 1-0 was really good. But yeah, it's one of them grounds they would have really benefited from having a fair crowd in there and stuff like that. And they're a team that seems to be struggling, and then they get a few results. They're quite inconsistent, so they would have really liked that. So yeah, but like I say, we're playing them next Friday anyway, so that's before any of that would have. Oh yeah, they would have just made it, wouldn't they? Just made the so that could have been our first one. So yeah, tier 3 for them. So it's difficult, isn't it? Because you're trying to. It's so. I was looking at the Premier League as well, and I think Manchester and Liverpool so different as well. You feel like they're really close to each other. They're in different tiers. It's really, they've obviously gone really specific on it. So yeah, interesting. They're in tier 3.
And certainly we're not doing this video to, have a bit of Schadenfreude and, enjoy the fact that certain teams are in tier 3. We're just, looking at the situation from a Bournemouth perspective. And obviously we're concentrating on the football. So, we want to know who's going to have fans and who's not. And hopefully this lets you know who isn't as well. So Birmingham and Coventry. Now, I wondered what would happen if one place was in one tier and one was in another, given that Coventry play at St Andrews, but they are both in tier 3. So that means that, no fans will be allowed into St Andrews. Now, Blackburn Rovers is the next one as well, and they are also in tier 3 too. Alphabetically, the next team that can have fans in will be Brentford, and it looks a nice little ground, doesn't it? Interesting design, certainly not like the Griffin Park that we knew and loved with 4 pubs on every corner. But what have you seen of that ground? And I'm sure an atmosphere can be generated inside there, Tom.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I did like the old ground. Yeah, I haven't seen too much on it because it seems like they got the new ground and then it's been like irrelevant in terms of fans able to go. So that's really good for them. I don't know if I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you know when we've got Brentford? I can't.
Yeah, 29th of December. So that will be, obviously they'll look at this again in January, I think, and then areas will be regraded in terms of like hospital admissions and the R rate and all that kind of stuff. There's an algorithm apparently. So yeah, obviously this means that it's just home fans.
Yeah, of course.
There will be no away days happening, sadly, but hopefully once the vaccine comes into place next season, we can all start fresh with full stadiums, and maybe will even be in the Premier League, which I would find really sad in some ways, because there are certain grounds that I was really looking forward to going to. And of course, we were in the Rope and Anchor having a beer, Tom, weren't we, and grading the away days. And there were certain places
what a waste of time that was.
Yeah, Nottingham Forest, of course, for Hooters, and Luton, and going over the old school grounds that we just really wanted to go to. And yeah, it's not going to happen. So yeah. There are also some other clubs that are in tier 3 as well as we go through alphabetically, and these include Bristol City as well. Now, Bristol City have been riding high at the near the top of the Championship. They're in the playoff places at the moment. Cardiff at the moment is under national restrictions, so in fact at the same time I'll put in Swansea in there as well. And whilst we're at it, we'll also put in Derby and Huddersfield. Now, from those clubs that we've put in, the 5 clubs, Bristol City, 3 to Huddersfield, are any of those that you're thinking, actually, it's going to make it a little bit more easier for us without fans in?
Yeah, it probably is. It's a difficult one, isn't it, Sam? Because, yeah, you try and it's hard because you want to, we're Bournemouth fans at the end of the day, and you looking at them, and I can't believe how many have gone into tier three there, and it's you want to look at it and be like, oh, that's an advantage to us, but I can't. It doesn't feel right. Do you know what I mean? I still want fans to be able to go. So yeah, it's a shame for them clubs, but yeah, looking at it from that point of view, it can't be anything but a positive. I mean, I like to think at the moment we've been playing without fans and we're second in the league. Adding fans in, I think, at the end of the day, you still got the players on the pitch, but there's always an impact. But yeah, it's a real shame to see so many going into that tier three. You think of the supporters of them clubs, really difficult for them, kind of potentially waiting for today, thinking, oh, we might be able to get back in. It must be a real blow for them.
Yeah, so 19th of January is when we'll be playing one of those teams. That's Derby County. And, later on into the season, I'm just looking. Yeah, Nottingham Forest would be on the 13th of February. Maybe they'll be regraded by then. We don't quite know. So we'll go further down the list and we'll see that Luton Town, they're allowing fans in. So, and that's a ground where I think they too will probably feel the benefit like us. They're a team that was expected to maybe be flirting with relegation this season, but it's a relatively small ground. It's an old school ground. And I think, once again, an atmosphere will be generated in there as well.
Yeah, I think that could be big for them. It's going to be, like I said, it's weird because we're, trying to get promoted, but we're still in that kind of little ground kind of batch, and that's going to benefit teams a lot. It'd be interesting we see at the end. It does seem like a lot of them kind of smaller grounds that can potentially generate an atmosphere might be able to now, but that'll be big for a team like Luton, who I actually think will be okay anyway. I think they've started okay, and I think that'll be really key for them. It's a nice ground as well. I've been there before, so yeah, but just still, I'm thinking about, because obviously away days are out the window, and then when you just said about Forest, I was dreaming of Hooters on Valentine's. Oh, I was dreaming of it, mate. I can't believe it.
That would have been beautiful. And so, yeah, we'll go further down the list. And yeah, Middlesbrough, sadly, they are in tier three, so no fans allowed in there. Two clubs that can have 2,000 is Millwall and Norwich City as well. And like you say, sadly, Nottingham is in the tier three there, but you never know. There could be a regrade in time, but alas, that still won't allow us to go into Hooters anyway. And even if you can, you've got to have a full blown meal.
Hey, last time I had some nice curly fries in there. Last time I went, I remember.
That counts.
Nice bit of grub in there as well, mate. So yeah, got to have a meal when you're in Hooters as well. Just enjoy the whole experience.
Enjoy the whole experience. So, what else have we got? Queen's Park Rangers, another one of the old school grounds that will be having fans in as well. I mean, Loftus Road, relatively small. Preston North End, they are another side that is in tier three as well. And as I go further down the list, what we got here, Rotherham United. Now, obviously, we're playing there on the weekend. It doesn't really affect us in terms of the fact that the restrictions will be kicking in on the 3rd. But again, it's a team that, as the season progresses, they would really want fans in, because certain clubs really will benefit from this. But let's see what else we got. Reading. Now, talk to me about Reading, because they've been flying high at the top of the Championship. They've had a serious wobble. 2,000 fans in such a big stadium like the Majetski. It's going to be a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it will be bizarre. This will, like I say, these bigger grounds, it's going to be really bizarre. Just seeing like a few fans filtered around. But yeah, in terms of them, they need to pick up, so that could help them. They're a team that I done a preview on a Reading podcast before we played them, and they're a team, I remember saying to them then they were top of the league, and they said he would take 9th. So they're a team that are aware that they've started really well, and that's great, but they're not expecting too much. But yeah, that'll be an interesting one, because like you say, it is quite a big ground. I mean, I've always liked the Majetski, actually, really nice stadium, but yeah, quite a big one. So 2,000 fans, you won't have the impact of 2,000 fans in Reading as you potentially will with the Vitality.
No, that's right. So Sheffield Wednesday, I mean, they're in desperate need of the points, obviously, and being in tier three, obviously, is just another blow for them. Stoke City, the archetypal horrible match on a wet, windy Tuesday night, as people always say, they are in tier three as well. And a couple of other teams that are allowed fans in. Watford, and teams like Wycombe Wanderers as well. And you just wonder what effect it will have. Now, no teams are in Tier 1 because didn't you say, Tom, that it's Cornwall or something that's one
Cornwall,
of
Isle of
the areas.
Wight, yeah. So Cornwall FC will be happy, but I don't know what position they're in. But yeah, it doesn't seem. I did think there was, but I can't believe when you look at. I thought it'd be more of a split, and there's obviously more in Tier 3, which is disappointing to see. Yeah, like you say, football in terms, it's obviously a benefit to us. But it's interesting, all these things, isn't it? So obviously we got the win against them, but really you can look at it at the moment, the top two, Norwich and Bournemouth, fighting it out to try and get in the Premier League. We had to play them with no fans. We're going to play them potentially, and they've got their fans. That integrity side of it. Don't get me wrong, we won the game, so I'm not.
Yeah.
It's just a point I can make because I know the fixtures we've had. But you just think, if it were to come down, if we had lost that game, say, and we had lost out on the title, say, because to Norwich, we'd go, well, they got to play us with no fans. We had to play them with their fans. Do you know what I mean? I understand it's a really unprecedented time, but it's so difficult. It's going to throw up a lot of questions, I think. And like you mentioned as well, teams nearer the bottom, obviously it's early days, but you've got the likes of Wycombe, they're going to benefit massively. And then Sheffield Wednesday, they've had to deal with that points deduction, new manager. I think now they're not allowed fans, and teams around them like Wycombe are. It's going to be really interesting. Like I say, it's just such unknown times at the moment. It's really weird, but doing what we can. What can you do? It's a really difficult one. You're always going to upset some people, I guess.
Now, one of the things that I always do after every game that I attend, I stand outside the 1910 bar with a microphone. We've decided that that's going to be knocked on the head this season because, even if I can go to a game, I just don't think it's right that I'm standing there and interviewing people, even if they're over a metre away or whatever it is. And when there's crowds forming, obviously people need to be dispersing and keeping social distancing. I just don't think it looks very appropriate. So it's going to be online stuff for the rest of the season. But what we will do is when we can get to games, any of the back of the net team or you at home, if you want to take part, is just film some footage, your match day experience. You Tom Jordan over there. You've probably got more chance of getting into games than I have been at STH, as I say. But
and Jason's mate.
Yeah, and of course Jason's mate.
That's going to happen now, by the way. If I get in on the first ballot, everyone's going, oh yeah, he's got in now as he has a chat. God. But yeah, have you? I mean, it's very early, isn't it? But I haven't seen exactly what the club's going to do. We're just assuming here that obviously I don't know how many season ticket holders there are. Would you say around 6,000?
Yeah, around 6,000. Now, previously, I read the fact that they would, take a percentage of each season ticket holders and just the normal ticket purchases. But I mean, I think you have to just go all season ticket holders, and I don't think people who buy their tickets match to match will be. I mean, obviously, it's an unprecedented situation, and I'm sure they will understand. There'll be people kicking off whatever happens, even though it's unprecedented and a national emergency. There will always be people that tend to go off on one, but yeah, what they'll do, I'm not sure. I mean, I know that people will be entered into a ballot if they want to go.
That's what I was going to say. That there's probably people, not just in our club, but potentially, ages and stuff like that. Potentially, health conditions themselves, or just feel like because of their work or anything, don't feel comfortable going. Exactly, so that'll be a difficult one, won't it? If they just win the ballot and they go, I don't want it. Does it just go back? Do you know what I mean? I guess they'll just be able to give it to someone else, like you say. But yeah, that'll definitely be the case as well. And you can't argue with that. I'm sure there's going to be people who, even if they've got family members that they care for and stuff like that, and don't want to mix, so which is understandable. So yeah, it will be really interesting to see what happens.
One thing I would say is if if you've got a weak bladder and you keep needing to go for a piss every 10 minutes, those are the kind of people you don't want in there, because especially in the North Stand and the three stands, they're tight rows, aren't they? So yeah. I assume everyone would have to get out onto the stairwell to allow the last person to get out, because otherwise, I don't know. I'm just trying to think how on earth it can work. Really, there's a bit more space in the Ted Mac. Will they use all four stands? You'd think they'd probably have to. It will look really weird on TV. They won't be able to sing songs by the sounds of it. It's going to be so weird. But that's what they said to the Middlesbrough fans when they played us with 1,000 fans in, and after they scored their equaliser, they were giving the refs some grief. They were being really loud, and ultimately they could have made a difference, which is why this season, I think I actually thought having no fans in throughout would actually be a leveller, and the best footballing team will win because there's no other, no other effects. But now it's going to be a bit weird, and it's another season where integrity sort of doesn't, there is none. But we need the football, and we're making the best of a bad situation. And hopefully from the start of next season, fingers crossed, it could be normal, having beers down the pub, after we're all vaccinated. Tom, I can't wait for the first away day. I really can't.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait, mate. And like you were saying then, it's whether it's a leveler, people are gonna ask questions like I did then. Could we have stayed up? Who knows? Do you know what I mean? It's unfortunately we're not going to know. I think there was fortunate things in terms of like Liverpool were so far ahead in the Premier League, because if that was a real close title race, you could have said that would have affected it. Do you know what I mean? So there's always going to be them questions, but you just do what you got to do. We've seen a fair chunk of the start of the season without fans really, and it seems like the teams with the best players and performing well are doing the job. So we'll see. But yeah, like you say, Matt, I can't wait for it all to be back to normal, being able to go on them away days, them whole match day experience and things like that. But yeah, it's just going to be really bizarre. And if we can't sing and stuff, I mean, what if we get Newcastle, say, in the FA Cup? You really expect me to not shout at Ryan Fraser? Come on.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
But I know. Like I say, I think there's going to be reviews all the time, and there's going to be little changes all the time. I feel for all the clubs that have got to do this admin kind of side of things. Do you know what I mean? And work on what they've got to do.
Logistical nightmare. And I can imagine, the ticketing officer at AFC Bournemouth, they're constantly having to monitor things and work out what on earth. And it is a nightmare, and their communications have got to be spot on and clear. It's such a challenging season. So far, they've dealt with it really well. They got their AFCB TV live service up and running pretty quickly. They wanted something in-house rather than following the iFollow method, and it's been good. Apart from a few teething problems, it's been really reliable. And yeah, a lot to think about. And you know what, Tom? If there are games where you can go and I can't, or vice versa, and whatever, I think we need to almost do a match day experience comparison.
Definitely.
Going through the turnstiles inside the ground, and me at home on the sofa with my Bovril, trying to get up for it, but really struggling. But yeah, I will have the benefit of watching Chris Temple, hearing Chris Temple and Jay,
and maybe seeing me,
and seeing you on the screen, as well. You never know. But anyway, Tom, really appreciate you coming on today.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
And remember, if you haven't watched it already, click the card at the top of the screen, because Tom's player ratings video with Kirk Tovey, a brilliant watch actually, going over our Forest performance. So make sure you give that a watch. 30 minutes of, as Ant McPartlin would say, TV gold. So yeah, make sure that you do that. Anyway, looking forward to getting back to the Vitality. As I say, we have got a match on the 1st of December, but the restrictions kick in on the 2nd or 3rd. So the Preston North End game at home, a little bit too soon. But Saturday the 12th of December, home against Huddersfield Town, we'll be able to be back into Dean Court again. We're really looking forward to it. Thank you for watching. Remember to give this video a thumbs up if you can, and also subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.